Who wrote this script? A human or something else? 2 years ago, that question wouldn't even cross your mind. Today, it's a sign of the profound, almost dizzying AI whiplash we're all experiencing. Tools like ChatGPT, Midjourney, Claude, they emerged seemingly overnight, transforming workflows, disrupting entire industries, and raising fundamental questions about creativity, intelligence, and our future. But this revolution wasn't spontaneous. It didn't just happen. It's the culmination of a decades-long, high-stakes, often hidden battle, fought by brilliant, ambitious, and perhaps, as we'll discover, surprisingly naive individuals. Welcome to CEO's Library, the 1% bookshelf, the podcast that distills the world's most impactful business and personal development books into actionable intelligence for leaders like you. Today, we're cracking open Parmy Olson's meticulously researched and gripping book, Supremacy. This isn't just another tech story, it's the riveting, often untold narrative of two pivotal figures shaping our AI-driven reality. Sam Altman, the Silicon Valley networker extraordinaire behind OpenAI, and Demis Hassabis, the cerebral games prodigy who co-founded DeepMind. Both men started with awe-inspiring dreams. They envisioned creating artificial general intelligence, or AGI, AI, with human-like cognitive abilities, not for profit, but for the good of all humanity. They saw it as a tool to solve our biggest challenges, from disease to climate change. Yet, somehow, their noble quests became deeply entangled with the colossal power, resources, and strategic imperatives of the very tech giants they initially sought to keep at arm's length: Google and Microsoft. In this episode, we'll unravel their contrasting personalities and clashing visions. We'll explore the crucial moments, the strategic pivots, and the unavoidable compromises that steered their idealistic projects into the orbit of big tech. We'll walk the ethical tightropes they navigated and sometimes stumbled upon. And most importantly, we'll extract the critical lessons their journey holds for every executive, entrepreneur, and leader facing the AI wave. What truly drove Altman and Hassabis? Why did their utopian ambitions ultimately lead back to the heart of corporate power? And what can you learn from this intense battle for AI dominance to better navigate the future of your own organization? Stay with us as we unpack the complex, compelling story of Supremacy. Imagine dedicating your entire professional life to building technologies so powerful it could fundamentally reshape human civilization for the better. Envisioning software that could not just mimic intelligence, but truly understand and solve problems, unlocking cures for intractable diseases, or designing systems to eliminate poverty. That was the magnitude of the dream fueling Demis Hassabis, a child chess prodigy who devoured science fiction. Hassabis wasn't primarily motivated by building a company. He was driven by a deep, almost obsessive desire to understand the very nature of intelligence itself. He co-founded DeepMind in London with Shane Legg and Mustafa Suleyman, not just with a business plan, but with a grand, almost philosophical mission: solve intelligence, then use it to solve everything else. His background in neuroscience and computer science, fused with his experience designing complex simulations in the video game industry, including the iconic theme park, shaped his approach. He saw building AGI as the ultimate scientific quest. Even an early failure with his ambitious game studio, Elixir Studios, which struggled despite critical acclaim, didn't deter his core vision. It merely refined his path towards a more fundamental goal. He believed quite strongly that the profit motive inherent in large corporations was fundamentally incompatible with the careful, ethical stewardship required for developing something as potentially transformative and dangerous as AGI. Across the Atlantic, Another visionary was charting a different, yet converging course. Sam Altman, already a prominent figure in Silicon Valley after his tenure leading the influential startup accelerator Y Combinator, possessed a different kind of drive. He was less the pure scientist and more the arch networker, the deal-maker, the ecosystem builder. His own early startup experience with Looped, a location-based social network that ultimately failed to gain widespread traction, taught him a crucial lesson he often repeated: you can't make humans do something they don't want to do, implying a need to align technology with genuine user needs and perhaps market realities. While Hassabis dreamt of pure intelligence, Altman envisioned AI as a force for creating unprecedented economic abundance, a way to dramatically lower the cost of living and eventually ensure humanity's long-term survival. In 2015, alongside figures like Elon Musk, Greg Brockman, and Ilya Sutskever, he co-founded OpenAI. Critically, it was established as a non-profit research lab, explicitly designed to be independent from the profit pressures of companies like Google, which they feared might rush AGI development unsafely or monopolize its benefits. Altman, like Hassabis, initially saw distance from big tech as essential for ethical AGI development. So here we have two distinct personalities, two different originating ecosystems: Hassabis in the relatively cautious, academic-leaning London European scene, Altman in the heart of Silicon Valley's move fast and break things culture. Yet both were captivated by the same monumental goal: achieving AGI. Both shared a profound belief in its potential for good and, crucially, a deep initial skepticism about letting corporate giants control its destiny. Their early paths, marked by both successes and significant failures, Hassabis with Elixir, Altman with Looped, weren't dead ends. They were vital learning experiences that shaped their strategies moving forward. What can leaders take from this initial phase? Lesson 1. A truly powerful, world-changing vision acts like a gravitational force. Hassabis's mission to solve intelligence and Altman's goal of ensuring humanity's future attracted brilliant minds and early believers, creating organizations with an almost cult-like dedication. This underscores the magnetic power of a clearly articulated, audacious purpose. Lesson 2. Treat early failures not as fatal blows, but as invaluable data points. Altman explicitly drew lessons from Looped's market mismatch. Hassabis's game design experience informed his approach to building intelligent agents. As a leader, ask yourself, how resonant and clear is our organization's overarching vision? Does it truly inspire, and perhaps more importantly, how does our culture perceive and process failure? Is it punished, burying valuable lessons, or is it analyzed and integrated, making the organization stronger and smarter? The ability to learn from setbacks, as both Altman and Hassabis demonstrated in their early careers, is fundamental to navigating the unpredictable path of innovation. Building artificial general intelligence, it turns out, is astronomically expensive. It's not just about brilliant researchers and clever algorithms. It demands access to staggering amounts of data and, critically, computational power on a scale previously unimaginable, the kind of computing infrastructure that only a handful of entities on the planet possess. This resource constraint became the Achilles heel of independence. Demis, Hassabis, and DeepMind, despite their brilliance and early breakthroughs, constantly struggled to secure adequate funding within the UK's more conservative investment landscape. They needed resources far beyond what venture capital was willing or able to provide for such long-term, high-risk research. Hassabis courted various potential investors, including Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg was interested, but Olson recounts how Zuckerberg reportedly balked at Hassabis's insistence on an independent ethics board with real oversight, a non-negotiable for Hassabis. Then came Google. In 2014, Google acquired DeepMind for a reported sum north of $600 million. It seemed like the perfect solution: access to Google's immense computing power, data, and deep pockets, while supposedly retaining operational independence and that crucial ethics oversight committee. The promise was alluring: resources without compromising the mission. Meanwhile, OpenAI faced its own existential crisis. Launched as a non-profit, it relied on philanthropic donations. A key early backer, Elon Musk, whose fears about AI aligned with OpenAI's initial cautious stance, eventually departed after disagreements over direction and control, particularly as OpenAI began contemplating a more commercial path. This left a massive hole in OpenAI's funding. Sam Altman realized that the sheer computational cost of training increasingly large and powerful AI models, particularly the kind needed for AGI, was unsustainable under a purely non-profit structure. He needed billions, not millions. Faced with the potential collapse of his ambitious project, Altman made a momentous and controversial decision. In 2019, OpenAI restructured, creating a novel, capped profit subsidiary. This new structure was designed to attract massive venture capital investment while theoretically limiting the returns to investors, preserving the original non-profit's mission as the ultimate beneficiary. And who stepped up with the first transformative investment? Microsoft, pledging over $1 billion in funding and cloud computing credits. This is where the core Supremacy's battle truly takes shape. As Olson portrays it, it wasn't just DeepMind versus OpenAI anymore. It became Google leveraging DeepMind's research prowess versus Microsoft strategically backing OpenAI, using these AI labs as powerful assets in their own colossal war for dominance in cloud computing, search, and the future digital landscape. The irony was stark. Two organizations founded explicitly to avoid the perceived dangers of big tech control ended up becoming deeply integrated, strategically vital components of those very giants. The attempts at maintaining independence and ethical purity began to fray. DeepMind's much vaunted ethics board, while formally existing, reportedly found itself lacking real teeth or influence within the vast Google bureaucracy, often sidelined or presented with decisions already effectively made. At OpenAI, the introduction of the capped profit model, while innovative, inherently shifted incentives. The pressure to deliver returns, even capped ones, and the deep integration with Microsoft's commercial goals inevitably began to subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, reshape priorities. The original, almost spiritual quests for AGI started bending towards the more immediate demands of corporate VPs, product roadmaps, and market share. This was the Faustian bargain: access to near-limitless resources in exchange for pieces of their original soul. The takeaway for leaders is a stark one. Scaling ambitious, resource-intensive projects, especially in cutting-edge fields like AI, often necessitate strategic partnerships or external investment. But leaders must understand the true cost. Independence, agility, and even the core mission are incredibly vulnerable to dilution when reliant on powerful external stakeholders with their own agendas. Before you sign that partnership deal, before you accept that massive investment, ask the hard questions. What are our absolute non-negotiable values and principles? What lines will we refuse to cross, even under existential pressure? How can we structure these agreements and our internal governance to build robust safeguards against mission creep? It requires vigilance, and a willingness to potentially walk away from deals that compromise core identity. Think, for instance, of the founders of WhatsApp, who expressed deep regret after selling to Facebook, citing clashes over the introduction of advertising and the erosion of their original privacy-focused principles. The allure of resources can be blinding. Clarity on non-negotiables is paramount. Now let's delve into a fascinating paradox highlighted in Supremacy, something we might call the Goliath paradox. In 2017, researchers at Google published a groundbreaking paper titled "Attention is All You Need." This paper introduced the transformer architecture, a revolutionary new approach to processing sequential data, particularly language. Transformers turned out to be the fundamental technological breakthrough that powers almost all the generative AI tools stunning the world today, including ChatGPT and Google's own Bard and Gemini models. Google invented the engine, yet for years, Google largely fumbled its potential, at least publicly. Why? Olson points to several factors contributing to this Goliath paradoxes. Large, successful companies like Google often become victims of their own success. They develop layers of bureaucracy, risk aversion, and internal silos that stifle radical innovation, especially innovation that might disrupt their existing cash cows. Google's immense profitability, driven primarily by its search advertising business, generating well over $100 billion annually, created a powerful inertia. Launching a truly capable AI chatbot too early risked cannibalizing that lucrative search business or generating embarrassing public failures. The internal hurdles to launching something potentially disruptive were immense. Contrast this with OpenAI, smaller, nimbler, and initially less burdened by legacy businesses. OpenAI, under Altman's leadership, embraced a more aggressive, ship-it culture. They saw the potential of the transformer architecture and poured resources into scaling it up, culminating in models like GPT-3, DALL-E2, and eventually ChatGPT. They were hungrier and perhaps had less to lose reputationally from releasing imperfect but impressive technology into the wild. But this race, fueled by the transformer, also exposed and arguably exacerbated critical ethical blind spots. As these powerful models were being developed, a crucial tension emerged. One Olson carefully documents the tension between AI safety and AI ethics. AI safety, often championed by figures influenced by long-termism and effective altruism philosophies, tends to focus on the potential long-term existential risks of superintelligence. The Terminator's scenarios, however distant. AI ethics, on the other hand, focuses on the present-day harms caused by AI systems, issues like algorithmic bias, replicating and amplifying societal inequalities, lack of transparency in how models make decisions, fairness in resource allocation, and the potential for misuse in areas like surveillance or disinformation. Supremacy highlights how, within both DeepMind and particularly early Google AI efforts, the focus on long-term safety sometimes overshadowed the urgent need to address immediate ethical concerns. The book recounts the experiences of prominent AI ethics researchers like Timnit Gebru and Margaret Mitchell at Google. They co-authored a paper famously nicknamed Stochastic Parrots, which raised critical questions about the dangers of large language models, including their environmental cost, their potential to perpetuate harmful biases absorbed from their training data, and their tendency to generate plausible-sounding nonsense. Their research pointed out that because these models are trained on vast swathes of unfiltered internet text, like the massive Common Crawl dataset, they inevitably ingest and reflect the biases, stereotypes, and toxicity present in that data. Raising these uncomfortable truths led to significant internal friction, culminating in the controversial firing of both Gebru and Mitchell from Google. Their story serves as a stark warning about the institutional resistance to confronting the ethical flaws baked into the very foundations of these powerful technologies. The lack of transparency around the specific data used to train many major models, including concerns about copyrighted material and the perpetuation of historical injustices, remains a significant ethical gap. The critical lesson here for leaders is twofold. First, recognize the Goliath paradox within your own organization. Building innovation capacity isn't sufficient. You need robust processes and a culture that allows you to actually deploy breakthrough innovations effectively, even if they challenge existing business models. How do you actively combat institutional inertia and the fear of cannibalization? Second, and perhaps even more urgently, ethical considerations, fairness, bias, transparency, societal impact cannot be an afterthought or relegated to a siloed compliance department. They must be deeply embedded into the entire technology development lifecycle, from conception and data collection through to deployment and monitoring. Ask yourselves, how are we proactively identifying, measuring, and mitigating the ethical risks associated with the technologies we develop or deploy? Are we genuinely listening to critical voices, even when they present uncomfortable truths? Addressing these ethical blind spots is not just a matter of reputation management, it's fundamental to building trustworthy and sustainable technology and business practices. The cost of ignoring them, as the Stochastic Parrots episode illustrates, can be immense. November 30th, 2022. OpenAI releases ChatGPT to the public. Positioned modestly as a low-key research preview, its impact was anything but low-key. Within 5 days, over 1 million users had signed up, stunned by its conversational fluency, its ability to write code, draft emails, generate creative text formats, and answer complex questions with remarkable coherence. Social media exploded, news outlets scrambled to cover the phenomenon. For the general public, it felt like science fiction had suddenly become reality. Inside Google, the reaction was starkly different. Panic, according to reports detailed by Olson and others, the unexpected capabilities and viral success of ChatGPT triggered a code red. Google executives realized they had potentially underestimated OpenAI and been caught flat-footed, despite having pioneered much of the underlying technology. The AI arms race, which had been simmering for years in research labs and strategic partnerships, abruptly burst into the open, transforming into a high-speed, high-stakes product race focused squarely on generative AI and large language models, LLMs. This moment fundamentally shifted the landscape. Google rushed to assemble its own competitor, Bard, leading to a sometimes stumbling public launch. It accelerated the development and integration of its most advanced models, later branded Gemini. Microsoft, having shrewdly invested billions in OpenAI years earlier, suddenly found itself holding a powerful strategic advantage, rapidly integrating OpenAI's capabilities into its Bing search engine, its Office suite, and its Azure cloud platform. The shockwaves reached DeepMind too. Hassabis' lab, initially somewhat dismissive of OpenAI's purely scale-driven approach to LLMs, preferring methods they saw as closer to genuine understanding, now faced immense pressure to deliver competitive generative AI products for Google. This competitive pressure ultimately led to a major restructuring within Google. DeepMind was merged with Google Brain, the company's other major AI research division, under the unified leadership of Demis Hassabis. It was a consolidation aimed at focusing Google's vast AI talent pool directly on competing in the new generative AI arena, defined by OpenAI and Microsoft. The intensity of this new race also put immense strain on OpenAI's unique governance structure. In late 2023, the world watched in astonishment as OpenAI's non-profit board abruptly fired Sam Altman, citing concerns that he was not being consistently candid in his communications. The precise reasons remain contested, but Olson's book provides context, suggesting underlying tensions between the board's safety-focused mission and Altman's aggressive commercialization drive, heavily intertwined with Microsoft. However, Altman's ouster lasted mere days. An overwhelming majority of OpenAI employees threatened to quit unless he was reinstated, and crucially, Microsoft threw its considerable weight behind Altman. His swift return, albeit with a newly constituted board, starkly illustrated where the true power now resided, not necessarily with the original non-profit mission, but with the charismatic CEO, his loyal employees, and the indispensable corporate partner providing the billions in funding and computing power. The narrative had irrevocably shifted from the pure, cautious pursuit of AGI to the rapid deployment of commercially viable AI products in a fiercely competitive market. What are the takeaways for leaders from this dramatic acceleration? First, technological disruptions can materialize with breathtaking speed, demanding exceptional organizational agility and decisive leadership to adapt. Complacency is lethal. Second, the open AI governance crisis underscores the inherent fragility of novel structures when confronted with intense commercial pressures, powerful personalities, and billions of dollars at stake. Governance must be robust and stress-tested. Finally, the entire episode highlights the immense challenge of balancing the relentless drive for speed to market in a competitive environment with the crucial need for responsible development and deployment. How do you foster rapid innovation without cutting corners on safety and ethics? As a leader, is your organization truly prepared for sudden seismic shifts in your industry landscape? Is your own governance structure resilient enough to withstand internal and external pressures? And how are you navigating the critical trade-offs between competitive velocity and responsible stewardship of powerful technologies? So the battle for AI supremacy, as Parmy Olson masterfully chronicles in her book, is far more complex than just a story about algorithms and processing power. It's a deeply human drama driven by towering ambition, fueled by unprecedented corporate resources, and fraught with profound ethical compromises. We've journeyed alongside the idealists, Sam Altman and Demis Hassabis, watching as their grand visions for AGI benefiting humanity were inevitably drawn into the gravitational pull of Microsoft and Google's strategic warfare. We've uncovered the Goliath paradox, how tech giants can invent the future yet struggle to deploy it, creating openings for nimbler players only to often dominate later through sheer scale or acquisition. We've confronted the critical, often marginalized, ethical risks embedded within the data and design of these powerful models, these stochastic parrots whispering biases back to us. And we witnessed how the explosive arrival of ChatGPT shifted the race into hyperdrive, potentially sidelining caution in the name of competition and further concentrating power. As leaders charting the course for your own organizations in this rapidly evolving AI era, understanding these deep currents, the interplay of personality, power, resources, ethics, and competition, is not just insightful, it's essential. Reflect on how these dynamics might be playing out, perhaps on a smaller scale, within your own industry, your own company, even your own team. How will you harness the undeniable power of AI, not just effectively, but responsibly? How will you navigate the inevitable compromises without losing sight of your core values? For the full transcript of today's episode, along with stunning visualizations that bring these complex concepts and timelines to life, head over to ceoslibrary.com. That's ceoslibrary.com. And if this deep dive into supremacy opened your eyes or sparked critical thinking, please share it with another leader, founder, or executive who needs these 1% insights to navigate the future. Parmy Olson's Supremacy provides an absolutely essential, deeply researched, and compelling narrative of how we arrived at this pivotal moment in AI history, and offers crucial context for where we might be heading. If you want to immerse yourself fully in the intricate details, the personalities, and the high-stakes decisions that shaped our world, you can find the link to buy your own copy of the book or the audiobook right there in our episode description on ceoslibrary.com.